welcome. If you're looking for a job or interested in the latest recruitment trends, this segment is really for you. TeamLease EdTech has released their latest career outlook report, and the highlights are as follows. Well, the first highlight emerging is e-commerce and tech startups are leading fresher hiring in India for the July to December period, really, as per this study. The opportunities for freshers are as much as 88% in the e-commerce and tech startup space, again, as per this study by TeamLease EdTech. Their report also says the opportunities for freshers are 87% in the retail sector and 82% in the manufacturing sector altogether. Now, the study also says that cities leading this hiring are really Bengaluru at 81%, Mumbai at 67%, and Chennai at 59%. To understand the conclusions of this study further, I'm joined by Shantanu Rooj, founder and CEO of TeamLease EdTech, for an exclusive interaction with NDTV. Shantanu, thank you for your time. Take our viewers through how this study was conducted. The report, they say, is based on inputs really from over 1,000 companies across industries, and what really are the broad trends emerging for freshers, of course, who are keenly going to be watching this segment.
Thank you so much, Sakshi, for having me here. So this is a study at TeamLease EdTech we conduct every 6 months to understand the pulse of the employers, the pulse of the industry, about where are the new opportunities arising for the freshers. This input goes back to a lot of educational institutions, universities, and colleges, so that they understand the voice of the employer, and they can possibly tune their own courses and ensure that the students are prepared accordingly for those new job roles. That's the purpose of this particular report. While doing this report, we try to cover a large spectrum of employers across different industry segments to understand their voices and how they are strategizing about freshers hiring in their own companies. This time we covered upwards of about 1,000 odd employers across 17 different industry segments. And there are a lot of interesting inputs which started coming in. Obviously, there is, as all of us are aware, there are macroeconomic situations, geopolitical situations, which are actually a matter of concern for any organization and any country. However, the employers in India today are quite bullish about when they're looking at filling up their talent pipeline with fresh talents. So there are two things that we noticed here in this case, Sakshi. One is we saw that if industry-wise data, most industries have spoken about increasing their intake pressures. So from industry perspective, that's something that we're noticing. Some of these could be driven by stuff like automation, which is changing the way businesses were done in the past and they're going to be done in the future. There are change in job roles. That's something that we are observing. We also started seeing a shift in the type of employers and their attitudes. For example, one new thing which came up in this report, which I thought I would like to speak to you about, is that within our specific industry segments, a lot of larger employers are slightly hesitant about employing a large number of freshers, whereas their smaller counterparts or the smaller and the medium-sized organizations are extremely bullish about hiring this fresh, digitally native talents into their workforce. So this is a new shift that we have started seeing it. Obviously, there is also a element of festive hiring, because this session from August to December is marked by several festivals in India, and this actually drives a lot of hiring of freshers. Some of them could be for temporary roles, but then there is a lot of bullishness amongst e-commerce companies, logistics companies, packaging companies, retail organizations, even, for example, hospitality and travel and tourism. All of these companies are fairly bullish about filling up their open positions so that they're ready for the upcoming upswing in their businesses.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned the automation challenges emerging, the impact of AI-led workforce restructuring altogether also taking place, as well as global trade uncertainties as we continue to witness. So the impact of all of that on overall hiring, Shantanu.
So I think these are early days, but we are started seeing the changes happening at the horizon. We are seeing that most organizations today understand that the transition from a legacy business to a digitally native business is happening faster than we all thought it would happen. Most organizations the last few quarters has started adopting AI in some format or the other. Some of them possibly would be more mature in their own adoption of AI, but then I can't think of organization who's not thinking about using AI in their particular business. That's one. The second thing that's actually changing the way businesses are done is the automation which is coming in lots of manufacturing and a lot of setups today. Today we hear about warehouses which are completely manned by robots today, right? There are organizations which says that, and when we look at warehouses which are robot manned or robot operated, they operate in a very different way. For example, there are warehouses where you don't need air conditioning these days because robots don't need air conditioning. You don't need light. You can save electricity because robots don't need electricity. So the way businesses were done and are going to be done are actually changing. It's just not process automation. And organizations are getting ready with it. To do that, they need a combination of two different type of workforce. One is a seasoned, experienced workforce who understand the domain, understand the industry very well. But you also need a new set of people who come with new ideas, new skill sets, and are open to change, or more adaptable, or not willing to. We're not, scared of experimentation, or not scared of failing, and that is something I think the new set of millennials and Gen Zs bring, and we have seen employers are really very excited about taking this set of new people and amalgamate them with their existing workforce to create a completely new face, a team which is willing, which is adaptable, which can be put to multiple different job roles and are willing to experiment and lead this transition. I think that's the new thing that we are seeing here.
Right. Also, interesting that you mentioned that, because, then comes the question really on skill development, like you were talking about. Do freshers really watching this need to skill themselves differently? Because often we see there's a mismatch really in the jobs that, and the education as versus what jobs really are there today in the market, as you were mentioning. So your thoughts really on, is it time for the youth really, and especially freshers looking out for jobs, to look into this very, very differently if they're looking for a job?
So yes, Sakshi, I mean, that's a pertinent question. Today, employers are just not happy about theoretical knowledge. I mean, there is very little, respect for theoretical knowledge, because in a world where Google knows everything, just that will not work, right? So what the employers today want two more additional stuff apart from knowledge, which is the baseline. They want evidence of skill sets, job relevant skill sets, and they also want some proof of some sort of work experience, right? This is something that they want from freshers. That they want people who understand their theory, have done that basic level education well, but they have picked up multiple skill sets. So learnability is something that's coming up. They don't expect you to be highly skilled, but they want to see evidence that you are keen to learn new things. Have you been learning new skills? It doesn't matter what skills it is, right? So employers want that. Is this person trainable? Person is natively learnable, and that's something that's coming up. And number three, is he or she also enterprising? Did you take up some internship? Did you take up some on the job training? Did you do some apprenticeship? Did you do some project work which tells you real world challenges? And did you try to find out that? If you show this evidences, there is an employer dying to take you in their organization.
Right. So wanting to stay adaptable, taking the initiative, and also the keenness to really learn, especially learn on the job, as you were mentioning, are also crucial. But Shantanu, overall freshers, the hiring intent has slightly softened, as per your study, to 70% for the July to December period. Now, can you explain this to our viewers, saying, all right, okay, at one end we are saying that there are these top sectors that have fresh opportunities for freshers, and then we say that overall the fresher hiring intent has slightly softened.
So, Sakshi, we should look at it two different ways. One is that if you look at any industry, let's say I look at technology and startups, for example, our study says that the industry, there are more number of employers who want to hire freshers, so from industry perspective, which means that there are, but overall, if you see number of hires to be done there are lesser. And number of employers going up, but number of open positions has softened. This is happening in each industry, has behaved differently, but specifically since we are giving an example of tech and startups, if you see the larger players there are more more influenced or more impacted by all those macroeconomic situations, with the US market behaving very differently, and the demand for body shopping business actually softening. There's a margin pressure that's coming up for larger players who are dependent on largely Western markets. But look at all the medium and small size players who are not purely dependent on US markets, but are spread across the globe, doing some business in Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, Dubai, or a largely a domestic player, for example. All these players are extremely bullish about their intent to hire. So number of employers wanting to hire freshers are going up, which is great news for us. Temporarily, number of open positions are slightly softened. I don't think it's a long-term worry. For me, it's a short-term blip. But if there are more number of employers wanting to hire freshers, they're bullish about the business, they're at the forefront of this transition. This smaller and medium players will become larger one day. So I believe that this is a transition in the trend that I'm seeing. But I'm very optimistic about the way future is.
Right, you're very optimistic about the future. And I also want to ask you that, look, because of automation and the uncertainties that the world is witnessing, are we also gradually seeing a shift in the layers of hierarchy in many organizations? And also, the overall state of employment in the country? Because many believe that at the moment, look, there's a huge sector of employment that is in the informal sector, right? So, how do you think we can assess that, and how can we move towards a brighter future for everyone and not just freshers?
So, Sakshi, I mean, as we are all aware that these technologies are irreversible. AI is going to happen. Automation is coming up. Robotics is actually changing the way manufacturing used to happen. 3D printing is actually happening, is a reality. Some of these things sounded like fairy tales to us a few quarters back, but these are realities staring on our face today, which means that the industries will change, employers will change, money will go to people and industries where this change is actually inevitable, and is visible, which means that the type of employees these companies will need in the future are going to be different than what they needed in the past. Now, to make sure that I am a worthy enough candidate for these employers, and I catch the attention of so many of these hiring managers, I need to ensure that my CV is brimming with a lot of evidence of continuous upskilling, continuous learning. Learning just not doesn't happen to online or reading a book. It is show a multilateral way of learning. I can learn from an online program. I can learn from reading books. I can learn from peer people. I can learn from an internship that I do. From a fresher's perspective, I think it's important to take initiative. It's time to take agency, showcase that, go out and pick up in learning from anywhere. I think I can tell you, as an example here, my daughter, who just completed her 10th and completed 11th, every year for the last 3 years, in her summer vacation, I mean, whereas her friends were actually, wasting some part of their time doing Instagram and Snapchat, she decided to use that time to do internships in different companies. All the 3 vacations did. And today she's so confident, and speak to her and she's so confident, because these are not bookish knowledge anymore. These are experiences that you'll never forget, right? And this is that confidence that comes up, impresses any employer today. I think that's what all freshers must be aware of.
Absolutely, taking initiative really is the way forward, and like you were just giving your daughter's example. But lastly, I also want to ask you, Shantanu, is it time for employers also to adapt to the new normal, to the new skill sets, to, of course, like you said, the different generations within an organization sometimes, and how they need to approach maybe freshers and existing employees differently?
Completely agree with you, and I can't agree with you more, Sakshi. And we just published a report a few months back on this particular stuff. The trend that we are noticing, that while this world is shifting and there's a massive skill set shift which is going to happen in the next couple of years' time, the upskilling is being prioritized by employees more than employers today. One of our reports said that 82% of the people who are getting upskilled are being self-funded, and the people who are employer-funded upskilling has actually not grown so much. I think it's important for employers to wake up to this. This is the time where you have to manufacture your own future employees. This type of upskilling, reskilling, or training must be looked at as investments. A lot of CSR money has to go into upskilling people to ensure they are resilient in the face of change which is going to come. I think employers need to to wake up and come up and showcase society more urgency in this case.
Right. So, of course, initiative and upskilling, the need of the hour for freshers, existing employees, and employers. Thank you so much for your time and for this exclusive interaction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sakshi.